Let's begin with the chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Atinādāna veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Kāmesu miccācārā veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Musāvāda veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Surāmēle majjapamādatthāna veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Itipiso bhagavā araham sammā sambuddho vidyācarana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sārati sattā deva manussanam buddho bhagavati swakhato bhagavata dhammo sanditthiko akaliko ehi passiko upanayiko paccattam vedi dhammo viñño heti. Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ujjupatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Nyāyapatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Samicchipatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Yogani Atta Purisa Puggala Esa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karneyo Anuntaram Punyam Kintam Lotasaki Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's take a couple of minutes to relax our body and calm the mind. Understanding your sitting posture, the way you are seated. Taking a few deep inhalations and exhalations, some long, gentle, mindful breaths, releasing any tension and negative energies from your body, making yourself very comfortable and relaxed. You may bring your total attention to your inner experience. Now, feeling your entire body with the mind, being very friendly to yourself, you may wish yourself and bless yourself for your physical and mental well-being from the bottom of your heart. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be relaxed, may I be peaceful, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be relaxed, may I be peaceful. Appreciating this very moment, appreciating your spiritual practice, appreciating your physical body, feeling the deep sense of connectedness with your body and mind. Being very gentle to yourself. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be relaxed, may I be peaceful. feeling the love in the center of your heart, letting it expand towards all living beings in the world, in the universe, letting your love go to all beings in all directions, broadening your heart, broadening your mind. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be relaxed. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be relaxed. May all beings be peaceful. You may open your eyes. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. So we're going to start our Monday evening Sutta discussion. So today I selected the Anuruddha Sutta. This sutta comes in the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses, and in the book of 8. There are 8 Dhamma factors explained in this particular discourse. And the sutta was taught to Venerable Anuruddha. So the Venerable Anuruddha was a very popular, very well-known, enlightened monk among the Buddha's disciples. And also Anuruddha was a relative of the Buddha. So this individual entered the order of monks with a group of other princes, Devadatta, and you know the Devadatta is a very well-known character, a monk among the Buddha's disciples, and a group of young princes entered the order of monks when Buddha visited the Kapilavatthu, his birth city. So among them, the Anuruddha was also there, among other princes, including Devadatta and Upali, those kind of princes. So Venerable Anuruddha was a very well-known monk for having a very special skill. He was praised by the Buddha to be having this special skill of having a divine eye. We call it the Dibba Chakku. He was able to see things that a normal person would not be able to see. So it was a very special skill, as we learn about these supernatural skills as a result of developing one's own mind to a higher level. People can achieve these psychic powers. So there were so many monks and nuns, even lay people during the Buddha's time among his disciples, having these special psychic powers, psychic skills. So Venerable Anuruddha was very well known for having that divine eye. He could see things that normal people couldn't see. So there are different stories, different occasions. He performed these special skills, especially when he was preaching the Dhamma, for instance. He would see the divine worlds and see as a result of what karmas these divine beings are born in the heavenly realms. So, explaining these conditions to the listeners, the audience, he explained the Dhamma, to be very practical, right there. This is the result of doing good karmas, positive karmas. They are born in these heavenly realms. And also at the same time, surveying the hells, how different beings are born in hells, going through a lot of suffering. As he was teaching, explaining the Dhamma, directly he explained these individuals are born in these hells as a result of these negative karmas, evil actions. So people were very engaged. They were encouraged in practicing the Dhamma in that way. So there are incidents like that. So he had this special skill. So this Anuruddha Sutta, this special discourse actually was a very special discourse in the Tipitaka that we find many practical, skillful qualities for all of us. So we can see as we go through this discourse. So it starts once the Blessed One was staying among the Bhaggas in the deer park at Besakala Grove near Crocodile Hunt, and at that time Venerable Anuruddha was living among the Chetish, the eastern bamboo park. Then, as he was alone in seclusion, this line of thinking arose in Venerable Anuruddha's awareness. So, as Venerable Anuruddha was practicing meditation in seclusion, these thoughts occurred to him. These thoughts came to his awareness, these contemplations. This Dhamma is for one who is modest, not for one who is self-aggrandizing. This Dhamma is for one who is content, not for one who is discontent. This Dhamma is for one who is reclusive, not for one who is entangled. This Dhamma is for one whose persistence is aroused, not for one who is lazy. This Dhamma is for one whose mindfulness is established, not for one whose mindfulness is confused. This Dhamma is for one whose mind is centered, not for one whose mind is uncentered. This Dhamma is for one endowed with discernment, not for whose discernment is weak. So these are the thoughts that came to Venerable Anuruddha's awareness when he was in seclusion. At that occasion, the Blessed One, realizing with his awareness the line of thinking in Venerable Anuruddha's awareness, just as a strong man might extend his flexed arm or flex his extended arm, disappeared from among the bhaggas in the deer park at Besekala Grove near Crocodile Hunt and reappeared among the chetis in the eastern bamboo park right in front of Venerable Anuruddha. There he sat down on a prepared seat. As for Venerable Anuruddha, having bowed down to the Blessed One, he sat to one side. As he was sitting there, the Blessed One said to him, "Good Anuruddha, very good. It's good that you think these thoughts of a great person." So, this is a very special thing that we can see in different discourses. It implies actually that how much awareness that Buddha had upon his disciples, their practice, their spiritual progress even. So from time to time, when Buddha came to know his disciples are practicing meditation in seclusion like this, at different places, different occasions, understanding their level of practice, sometimes there are difficulties, there are challenges, Buddha approached them. So this is one of those occasions. So depending on the circumstances, Buddha sometimes used his psychic powers to approach them. So this is one of those occasions. He disappeared from where he was and appeared in front of Venerable Anuruddha with the body made of his mind. You may call it the astral body. It's a subtle body. It is not the real physical body, but it's a created mental body. So this is how Buddha approached Venerable Anuruddha. This is the Buddha's immediacy, right? So Buddha understood the line of thoughts that occurred to Venerable Anuruddha. So Buddha thought this is the best time to approach him, best time to teach him the importance of these skillful qualities, thoughts, and I should encourage him. So approaching Venerable Anuruddha, he explained to him further. Okay, so in many different discourses we can see Buddha approached his different disciples as needed. Not only his disciples, there are sometimes even, Buddha happened to observe some thoughts in heavenly realms, even in some divine beings, some Brahma realms, if Buddha happened to notice some special thought, there are incidents like that. When one Brahma was having a wrong view, wrong thought process, Buddha approached him with his divine powers and explained the real Dhamma to help them, to help this individual overcome this wrong view, wrong understanding. So that kind of incidents we can find among different discourses. So even it is said that Buddha visited Sri Lanka 3 times, 3 occasions. Similarly, surveying the world, coming to know that there are these kind of situations that he could be of any help to them spiritually, he would not consider the distance, he would not consider the time, he would use his psychic powers to approach them and teach the Dhamma. So this is one of those occasions. So then Buddha praised his line of thoughts, how he praised. Good, Anuruddha, very good. It is good that you think these thoughts of a great person. So this is, according to the Sutta, these are the thoughts of a great person. In the Sutta it says, Mahapurusha Vitakka. The Mahapurusha Vitakka means these are the thoughts of great individuals, great people. So who are the great people? According to the teachings, the Buddha, the Pacceka Buddha, the enlightened monks and nuns, and also it is said Chakravarti king. There's a king in the Buddhist literature we find. This king is a ruler for the entire world. In the Buddhist literature there are different stories explained by the Buddha. In the history there have been these special kings, not in our known history, but in the history long back. So that king also is considered to be a great person. So these are the thoughts of those great individuals, the Buddha and enlightened beings. So why they are great? They are the highly spiritual people. So they have gone beyond these normal worldly human conditions. That's why they are great individuals. They are spiritual, higher individuals. So they always think these kind of thoughts. So the special about these thoughts, actually, they have nothing to do with these worldly matters. That means any of these thoughts are not associated with the negative emotions, wrong ways, wrong thoughts, harmful thoughts, evil thoughts. So they are always spiritual, meaningful, leading to liberation, enlightenment, inner peace and tranquility. This is the special quality of these great thoughts of great individuals. So that's why these thoughts are called the thoughts of great person. So Buddha prays, it's good that you think these thoughts of great person. So what thoughts? This Dhamma is for one who is modest, not for one who is self-aggrandizing. This Dhamma is for one who is content, not for one who is discontent. The Dhamma is for one who is seclusion, not for one who is entangled. This Dhamma is for one whose persistence is aroused, not for one who is lazy. This Dhamma is for one whose mindfulness is established, not for one whose mindfulness is confused. This Dhamma is for one whose mind is centered, and not for one whose mind is uncentered. This Dhamma is for one endowed with discernment, not for one whose discernment is weak. So now, then Anuruddha, think the eighth thought of a great person. So Buddha is adding an extra thought to Venerable Anuruddha's line of thoughts. What is that thought? This Dhamma is for one who enjoys non-objectification, who delights in non-objectification, not for one who enjoys and delights in objectification. Okay, so these are some words that we need to clarify. These are the special terms in the Dhamma. And then Buddha explains, Anuruddha, when you think these 8 thoughts of a great person, then whenever you want, quite withdrawn from sensuality, withdrawn from unskillful qualities, you will enter and remain in the first jhana and the second jhana. So these kind of explanation Buddha makes there. As a result of these contemplations on these special thoughts, he would, if he wishes to attain these higher levels of meditation, purification of the mind, it is possible, Buddha says. When you think these 8 thoughts of a great person, then whenever you want, with the stilling of directed thoughts and evaluations, you will enter and remain in the second jhana. Rapture and pleasure born from compassion, unification of awareness, free from directed thought and evaluation, internal assurance. With the fading of rapture, you will remain in equanimity, mindful and alert, physically sensitive to pleasure. You will enter and remain in the third jhana, of which the Noble One declared equanimous and mindful. He has a pleasant abiding. When you think these 8 thoughts of a great person, then whenever you want, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, as with the earlier disappearance of elation and distress, you will enter and remain in the 4th jhana, purity of equanimity and mindfulness, neither pleasure nor pain. So this is a very common explanation of different stages of jhana in many different discourses, how one can purify the mind, especially when one's mind is free from the hindrances. You know, the 5 hindrances we identify as the most common hindrances for the purification of the mind: attachment for the sensual pleasure, and the aversion or the anger, and the laziness, sloth and torpor, we call, and the restlessness and doubts, and vicikiccha, the doubt, confusing thoughts. So these are the basic 5 hindrances from which our mind can get deluded, unpurified. So through the samadhi practice, from the practice of tranquilizing meditations, what we achieve is the purification of the mind from these hindrances. So when the mind is so pure, apart from these hindrances, that mind is so radiant, so powerful, so pure. This is how Buddha explains that state of mind, which is possible to achieve by anyone if follows the proper practice, proper techniques. So in the gradual training, gradual path to enlightenment, Buddha very importantly explains the value of these higher stages of meditation. That is the mind we direct to the deep realization, the ultimate truth, right? So therefore that purity of the mind is very special part of this Dhamma practice. So the Buddha explains here, when Venerable Anuruddha contemplates on these a special line of thoughts, you know, that is also becomes a path to purify the mind, right? So especially we can see there are different paths, there are different techniques that Buddha explained to us as the path to attain enlightenment, right? So as we have learned so many different techniques, different paths, formulas to attain enlightenment, you know, as we commonly know the Sila, Samadhi and Panya, the morality, concentration and wisdom, and Dana, Sila, Bhavana, generosity, morality and wisdom. Sometimes it is explained as the Noble Eightfold Path, right? And sometimes we learn as four foundations of mindfulness. So these are different paths, different techniques to attain enlightenment. So as we can see directly, this line of thoughts, as Buddha explained here, can be a different path, different approach to achieve the same goal. So this is how Buddha explained to Venerable Anuruddha this line of thoughts as a meditation technique. This is what we need to understand. You know, these are some deep reflections we have to apply in our practice. Okay, so we can see what these qualities mean in the explanation, and then the sutta goes on. Now, when you think these 8 thoughts of a great person and become a person who can attain at will without trouble or difficulty, so this is a very special part, you know. These 4 jhanas, heightened mental states, providing a pleasant abiding in the here and now, then your robe of cast off rags will seem to you to be just like clothes chest of a householder or householder's son, full of clothes of many colors, as you live contented. It will serve for your delight, for a comfortable abiding, for non-agitation, and for enlightening on unbinding. So what it says here, when one achieves that kind of higher level of purification, right? When someone finds that satisfaction within one's own spiritual progress, spiritual development, it says, without trouble or difficulty, these when one has this higher state of jhanas, it is the control that one gains over one's own thought, mind, feelings, right? So in that attitude, in that practice, Buddha says how we can change our attitudes, how we can see the world in a different perspective. So this is what Buddha says. When your robe of cast off rags will seem to you to be just like the clothes chest of a householder or householder's son, full of clothes of many colors, as you live contented. Do you get the idea? So it is changing one's perspective. You know, even though that person wears very, maybe very cheap, you know, very simple clothing, that is enough for that person. This is all about the simplicity. How satisfied that person is with that very limited resource. This is what it explains. Because what that person enjoys within in the spiritual progress is the most important thing. That person does not care that much about these external conditions, external things. They don't worry about these external conditions that much. The basic needs are the most important, essential things that they try to maintain. just for the survival purpose. That person is very contented with that limit, right? Because what that person enjoys is the purity of the mind, this spiritual attainment, spiritual values, spiritual qualities, not the external things. That is what it explains here, okay? And then when you think these 8 thoughts of a great person and become a person who can attain at will without trouble or difficulty, these 4 jhanas. So this is when the total control of the mind is achieved, right? When one's total control is achieved through this spiritual practice, that person can direct the mind as wanted, right? So in that experience, Buddha says, when your meal of armed food will seems to you to be just like the rice and wheat of a householder or householder's son, cleaned of black grains and served with a variety of sauce and seasonings. Your dwelling at the foot of a tree will seem to you to be just like the gabled mansion of a householder or householder's son, plastered inside and out, draft-free, bolted and with its shutters closed. When you bed on a spread of grass will seem to you like the couch of a householder's son. Speared with long-haired coverlets, with woolen coverlets, embroidered coverlets, antelope, hide and deer skin rugs covered with a canopy, and with red cushions for the head and feet. So do you get the idea here? So that person, exactly a monk, monk's lifestyle is very simple. How this person, this spiritual person, appreciates this minimum level of requisites. His armed food is just like very rich food for him. That person, he's satisfied with that. The minimum level of shelter. As it says here, dwelling at the foot of a tree becomes like a living in a huge mansion for that person. Right? So it is totally changing of one's perspective and what that person values in this stage. Nothing but the spiritual satisfaction, spiritual progress, the wisdom gained through this practice. These external conditions are not that meaningful for them. And when you think these 8 thoughts of a great person and become a person who can attain at will without trouble or difficulty, these 4 jhanas, heightened mental states provide a pleasant abiding in the here and now. Then your medicine of strong smelling urine will seem to you to be just like the various tonics of a householder or a householder's son. So it's a very popular medicine in those days. The urine of a cow, I have heard even today, some people in some medicine practices, like Ayurvedic, they recommend this urine to be healthy. I don't know in what circumstances, for what illnesses. So the Buddha's advice for the monks, if there's no any medicine for them, they should be able to survive even with that type of medicine. So that's the simplicity, we need to get that message here, not just to be very negative, not to look at it very negatively, but what Buddha emphasizes here is the simplicity, to be able to sustain oneself with the minimum requisites. the basic needs. This is the idea. So it is to be a very highly developed spiritual skill to live with the minimum requirements. So it's a part of this spiritual life, especially for the monks and nuns, right? But you can clearly see how these qualities are important for you as well as householders, right? So we can see later. Now then, Anuruddha, you are to stay right here among the Chetis for the coming rains retreat. So Buddha advises Venerable Anuruddha, don't go anywhere else. Just stay where you are and practice. You are in the right direction. You are in the right path, right? This is how Buddha advised. As you say, Lord, Venerable Anuruddha replied. Then having given this exhortation to Venerable Anuruddha, the Blessed One, as a strong man might extend his flexed arm, or so he returned to his original place, just like he appeared in front of Venerable Anuruddha, right? After teaching this important Dhamma, praising his line of thoughts of a great person, he disappeared from the Venerable Anuruddha. And then Buddha, appearing near Crocodile Hunt, he sat down on a prepared seat, and as he was sitting there, he addressed the monks. Monks, I will teach you the 8 thoughts of a great person. Listen and pay close attention. Now the Buddha, teaching Venerable Anuruddha, coming back to his disciples, he's explaining these great 8 great thoughts of a great person to his disciples. He explains them to his disciples. Then the Blessed One said, now, what are the 8 thoughts of a great person? So he explained those 8 thoughts again, and then he explains again what each quality means. So I have a very simple version of that translation in English. These 8 qualities to remember easily. This Dhamma is for one of few wishes, right? In Pali language, it is very direct. This is the exact direct, simple meaning. That's why I found this. This Dhamma is for one who has few wishes, not for one with many wishes. That is the exact meaning of Apicchita and Mahicchita in Pali. Mahicchita means to have many wishes. That means to have many desires, cravings, attachments. So as people, normal people, they have these endless wishes, dreams, right? Expectations, so many things to achieve in their daily life, endless things. So this Dhamma is not for such a person, but this Dhamma is for a person with few wishes. That's the simplicity again. That lifestyle to be very simple and peaceful. Less anxiety. That is the reason. Okay. And second, this Dhamma is for the contented, the satisfied person, not for discontented. So there is also a very special quality that we learn in many places. Even in Metta Sutta, it is called the Santussakhoja. Santussakhoja means to be easily satisfied, if you can remember the chanting, to be easily satisfied. The satisfaction, to be contented with what we have already, to be satisfied, to be happy with what we have already, is a very important thing for our life. So that is the meaning. But we can see when people have the attitude of not being satisfied, not saying enough, not being happy about what they have, they are to be very restless, you know. They are very uncomfortable because they are not happy. They don't know how to enjoy what they have. So this is a normal, one of the normal human qualities, right? People, instead of enjoying what they have, they always uh, think about what is missing. They always complain for what is missing. They don't know how to enjoy what they have already, right? That is the satisfaction here. So we can see in normal society how people live in this world, you know. That's why we can see many people are not happy in their life, even though they have so many things. Especially when you compare with many people in this world, in different parts of the world, there are so many things that they are gifted with, but they don't know how to enjoy. This is a very subtle, very broad, very meaningful quality. You know, what are the things actually you can be satisfied about? What are the things you can be really happy about? What are the things that you can really appreciate in your life? There are so many things. Even your body, to be able to see this world, to be able to hear, to be able to move around, to be able to walk, everything. But how much we appreciate them, how much we acknowledge them. So whenever you don't have any physical problem, whenever you are healthy, it is a moment for you to enjoy and rejoice in. But if you are not conscious about that, you don't know how to enjoy it. And we can see how instead of that, people are always worried about what is missing, what they don't have. They are not conscious about what they already have. So this is one of the secrets for highly spiritual people in this world. They are very conscious about what they already have. So they really enjoy them. They don't want so many things to be happy because they are very much concerned about what they already have. Being very simple, being so present to what they have. So they can simply enjoy them. So there are so many things when you think about that. Your relationships, you know, your educational level maybe, your knowledge, your special skills, your friends around you, you know, where you live. So all these things are actually the conditions that we have to really appreciate and enjoy. So this is exactly what it means. This Dhamma is for the contented, not for the discontented. And then this Dhamma is for one in solitude, not for one who is delights in socializing. If you can remember one of our previous discourses of Bhante Sutta, we spoke about this golden loneliness, right? Or aloneness, to be very useful, very beneficial for this spiritual practice, right? So this is what it exactly explains again. To be in solitude, to appreciate being alone, is a great way to relax and to be peaceful and calm and to do whatever we need to do, right? And to explore many things. So life can be very different when we learn how to enjoy being alone. As a great asset sometimes. You know, we spoke about how people suffer not being able to process that, not being able to see the value of being alone, right? So we spoke about these things in detail in that particular discourse. But the opposite attitude of normal people is to enjoy socializing, So in the Dhamma practice, it is considered as a hindrance actually. You know, we know what people do when they get together, right? What they talk about, right? When two people come together, what they talk about, you know, what they think about. And when many people are getting together, it becomes a village, right? They talk about everything. So it is considered as a huge distraction for the inner peace and tranquility. You know, especially in this direct spiritual path. You know, this is the difference. So we are not discriminating these things, but we are trying to see how these things are related to the spiritual practice, as Buddha explains these things to Venerable Anuruddha, who is in a deep meditation practice, right? So this is why the silence and to be alone is a very special practice in this spiritual path. So this Dhamma is for one who is delighted in seclusion, being alone. Okay, and this Dhamma is for one who puts forth effort. So this is again the right effort. This Dhamma is not for the lazy people, because Dhamma practice requires a lot of encouragement, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. We call it the persistent effort, the aradha virya, the effort, the unwavering effort, uninterrupted effort in this practice. So it is highly emphasized in the Dhamma. So Dhamma cannot be realized, Dhamma cannot be experienced by a lazy person, right? So you all know that, how much effort you need to continue in this practice, even to come to this session every week, right? Every meditation. So we need to have that effort. We need to guide ourselves in the right direction with enough effort, energy. So this is what Buddha teaches here. And then this Dhamma is for one who establishes mindfulness. So this Dhamma is for one who maintains proper mindful awareness. We call it the present moment awareness. Not for one who has no mindfulness or confused mind, one who has a confused mind. So the mindfulness is a very important Dhamma, very important factor for realizing the Dhamma. So we have explained so many different things as necessary positive qualities, benefits of having mindfulness, the present moment awareness. And this Dhamma is for one who is samadhi, in samadhi, not for one without samadhi. The samadhi is the concentrated mind. Samahita means the concentrated mind, well-focused mind. This Dhamma is not for without samadhi. This Dhamma is not for a scattered mind. Dhamma cannot be realized, Dhamma cannot be enjoyed with a disturbed mind, distracted mind. Therefore, samadhi, concentration is needed in order to realize the deep Dhamma, to enjoy the Dhamma. And this Dhamma is for the wise, not for the foolish. So this is the only place actually Buddha discriminates this human nature in a categorical way. Buddha never explains that this Dhamma is for only for Buddhists, or only for men, only for women, anything like that, right? So the Dhamma can be practiced by anyone. The realization of the Dhamma can be achieved by anyone, regardless of any discrimination, except this. What? This Dhamma is for the wise. Dhamma to be realized, attained by the wise only. The foolish people cannot understand it. So we can see the foolish people would be the people who are not having these great thoughts, great qualities. So it's very difficult for them to understand the Dhamma. So this is why the seven thoughts that occurred to Venerable Anuruddha. So Buddha added the eighth quality. So Buddha, when he explained these qualities to his normal disciples, for the monks and nuns, it's different. How Buddha explained to them, as we can see, this Dhamma is for one who is modest, not for one who is self-aggrandizing. Thus was it said. With reference to what was it said, there in this case where a monk being modest does not want it to be known that he is modest. Now, this is a very special way of explaining that. So we explain it in a very general way, but this is in a very different perspective, as you can see. How Buddha explains that the simple wishes, not to have many wishes. This is how Buddha explains it here. Being modest does not want it to be known that he is modest. Being content, he does not want it to be known that he is content. Being reclusive, he does not want it to be known that he is reclusive. His persistence being aroused, he does not want it to be known that his persistence is aroused. So the simple idea here is the humbleness. When some people practices these things, good qualities, good practices, the humble person would try to hide it. They are doing it so privately, not to exhibit them, not to show up. So this is the idea. So people can become very arrogant whenever they do these things, even in the spiritual path. So why Buddha teaches us that here, that we have to be very careful. If we are not mindful, we can easily get caught up by these conditions too. Sometimes people feel that they are being arrogant, and because of these qualities, they try to hide it. They are not exhibiting that. They are personally, individually practicing these things, but it is not the normal way of a worldly person. They always try to show up. Even in this spiritual path, they are not trying to showing up. They don't want others to know it. So this is being so humble, so simple. This is the idea. Okay? And then this Dhamma is for one who is content, not for one who is discontent. So what it means, there is the case where a monk is content with any old robe, cloth at all, any old alms food, any old lodging, any old medicinal requisites. So this is again how a spiritual person, especially a monk or a nun, in this spiritual path, how they should be able to sustain themselves with minimum requirements, to be very contented, to be satisfied with what they have. This is very special quality, very helpful quality in this spiritual path to survive, to continue. This Dhamma is for one who is reclusive, not for one who is entangled. So that means there is the case where a monk, when living in seclusion, is visited by monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, kings, royal ministers, sectarians and their disciples, with his mind bent on seclusion, tending towards seclusion, inclined towards seclusion, aiming at seclusion, relishing renunciation. He converses with them only as much as is necessary for them to take their leave. So this is being very simple again, you know, to be very reserved, you know, not to indulge in gatherings, you know, conversing with many people all the time. It's an attitude. For some people, this is what they always enjoy, right? Making a phone call at least, you know, to meeting someone. So sometimes it may be needed, right? But in this spiritual path, as an attitude, as a quality, we need to be able to be happy with seclusion, you know, being alone, not to be surrounded by many people, you know, as it leads to many negativities sometimes, you know. It can create some negative conditions around it, you know, as a way of distraction, you know, for the purification of the mind. So in this way, Buddha explains the right effort. There is the case where a monk keeps his persistence aroused for abandoning unskillful mental qualities and taking on skillful mental qualities. He is steadfast, solid in his effort, not shrinking his duties with regard to skillful mental qualities. So that is what it means. So one puts effort in this right direction in terms of the negative qualities and positive qualities, in order to let go of the negative conditions, mental impurities, negative characteristics, right? Negative behaviors, attitudes. One applies the right effort, persistent effort towards that. And for the right direction, good qualities, positive, skillful means, also applies the right effort, persistent effort. So this is encouraged in the Dhamma as always. In the mindfulness, Buddha explains, there is the case where a monk is mindful, highly meticulous, remembering and able to call to mind even things that were done and said long ago. This Dhamma is for one whose mindfulness is established. So here Buddha explains a different aspect of mindfulness actually. So we explained the mindfulness as the present moment awareness, right? So this is another way of explaining the mindfulness in some places by the Buddha, to be able to remember things very easily, to remember things, to bring your awareness to the present moment, to bring certain things to the present moment as you need. So sometimes it is also needed. So for an instance, when you try to meditate, you know, you need to remind yourself, you need to remember that you are trying to meditate here. So this is the biggest problem that many people have during the meditation even. They forget. They forget that they are supposed to be meditating right now. Right? They do many other things. They do all the things except meditation. So this is about forgetting about the practice, right? So remembering necessary things for you, helpful, healthy things for you, is a part of mindfulness. This is what we need to learn here, okay? And then the concentrated mind is exactly explains again about the jhanas, these different levels of highly purified mind, as a very special spiritual skill to understand the truth, the real meaning of this life and the world. The jhanas, this highly purified mind, is praised by the Buddha in the noble gradual training. So that is the concentrated mind. And then what is the discernment? The panya. Panyavantasayam dhammo nayam dhammo duppanyasa. The panya, the wisdom here explains as there is the case where a monk is discerning, endowed with discernment of arising and passing away, noble penetrating, leading to the right ending of stress. This Dhamma is for one endowed with discernment. So that is the right understanding. The wisdom about this arising and passing away, which is the reflection of impermanence. Right? The impermanent nature about conditions. The physical, mental, emotional, any external conditions, according to these rising and passing away. These are deep reflections of impermanence. From time to time, when we focus on that reality, it's a huge realization in the Dhamma. This is where we let go of our wrong, unnecessary emotional attachments to these conditions. Just by seeing the truth, the reality, that nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. Nothing is going to be there the same. In any levels, in any reality. So when we look at this reality, when we reflect on that reality, our attitude is going to be changed. What we enjoy, what we appreciate, what we look for in our life is going to be changed. So this is a higher spiritual awakening in the Dhamma, to be able to see things as they are, which is to see things as they are arising and passing away. So this is the panya, or the right wisdom. Okay. And then what Buddha added was actually is the objectification. It is actually a very complex idea in the Dhamma, in the teachings even. It is in the Sutta, it is explained as the papancha. Nippapancha means, the word prapancha means different meanings. The prapancha can mean defilements, the thoughts, mental prolifications. So that is the idea of prapancha. So how do we understand the prapancha? All our thought processes, whenever you think about something, when the lobha dosa moha, the attachment, anger or delusion attached to them, they become the prapanchas. They become the mental impurities. They can bring us distress and anxieties and all suffering as a result of that wrong thinking. So that's what we call the prapancha. So, for instance, when you meditate, the biggest complaint, the common experience is to have these endless thoughts in your mind. Right? It's a very common experience. So these are called the prapanchas. That's what you call the prapancha. And how we deal with these thoughts, these mental activities, thoughts, we objectify them means we see some reality in these thoughts. We take them for granted. That is what it exactly means, right? To be very direct, when a person comes to your mind in thoughts, it is not just a thought for you, for your brain, it is not just a thought for you. It is exactly that person being present in your brain. If you are not mindful, you are exactly dealing with this person as if this person is in front of you. This is how your brain reacts to these thoughts. If you do not know how to process that, if you do not know how to mindfully rationalize it, they become so real for you. This is a very complicated reality as human beings we all are dealing with. And going through a lot of stress and anxieties as a result of that unskillful behavior. That is exactly what we call the prapancha. Taking these thoughts, emotions to be so real, to take them for granted. If you think about how our mind works every day, most of the time what our mind does is to proliferate these thoughts, create these thoughts, dramas, stories around different stories, different objects. And this is what eventually brings us anxieties, tension, and all negativities. So that is why Buddha deeply adds that to Venerable Anuruddha's line of thoughts here, to be very precise and to be very deep in the practice. This is where actually we need to solve this subtle problem in our mental level, in the spiritual level, to be free from unnecessary suffering, stress and anxieties. So this is what Buddha added to these thoughts, in addition to Venerable Anuruddha's thoughts. Okay, and then now during the following rains retreat, Venerable Anuruddha stayed right there in the eastern bamboo park among the chetis, dwelling alone, secluded, heedful, ardent and resolute. He, in no long time, reached and remained in the supreme goal of the holy life for which clansmen rightly go forth from home into homelessness, knowing and realizing it for himself in the here and now. He knew birth is ended, the holy life fulfilled, the task done. There's nothing further for the sake of this world. And thus Venerable Anuruddha became another one of the Arhats, fully enlightened ones. Then, on attaining Arhatship, he uttered this verse. So, after he attained enlightenment, he practicing this Dhamma, as Buddha instructed him, within a very short period of time, he attained enlightenment. He understood the ultimate truth. And upon his attainment, he uttered these the blissful thoughts. Knowing my thoughts, the teacher unexcelled in the cosmos came to me through his power in a body made of mind. He taught in line with my thoughts. And then further, the Buddha, delighting in non-objectification, taught non-objectification. Knowing his Dhamma, I kept delighting in his abiding bidding. The three knowledges have been attained, the Buddha's bidding done. So this is what he uttered with pleasure, with deep joy within, after he realized the Dhamma. So this is a kind of summary to the story or the sutta, the discourse. So these 8 conditions actually are to be very healthy, very spiritual, very skillful for all of us. These kind of reflections, these are actually some higher qualities we need to appreciate in our life. If you can remember these qualities, right? To have few wishes, not to have endless wishes, even to have some healthy wishes, positive goals, positive wishes for our life, and to be very contented, to be very easily satisfied, and to be mindful, to be very concentrated, to be centered, to be wise and intelligent, to have enough energy. So these kind of qualities can make our life very easy. Life can be very simple and enjoyable when we cultivate these qualities. So therefore, these qualities actually very important for the spiritual path as well as for our normal everyday life. So life can be very easy, less complicated when you are able to incorporate these insights, these deep meanings into your everyday life. So the purpose of these conditions, actually, as it explains here, the Dhamma is for one who practices, who cultivates these qualities. So what does it mean? So Dhamma can be realized. In order to realize the Dhamma, we should maintain such attitudes, maintain such qualities in our life. These are some internal mental qualities, changing our entire behavior as a lifestyle, right? So that way of life can conducive to reach the real Dhamma, or to end all suffering, or to realize the ultimate truth. So that is the simple meaning. And at the same time, if one practices the Dhamma, this is exactly where one ends, right? As a result of practicing this Dhamma, as practicing meditation, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, this is what we are eventually going to end it up with. So because we find how important, how special, how unique these qualities are. If one practices these qualities, the life can be very divine, very peaceful, having no much stress and anxieties. So therefore, these qualities can be very healthy for us. So that is the meaning of this discourse. So in some places, actually, Buddha also explains what kind of mentality, what kind of spirituality we need to understand the real Dhamma. Because Dhamma is very subtle. Dhamma is very pure. So that Dhamma cannot be realized by a normal mind. So this is something to keep in mind, right? As we are engaging in this very superficial level, in mundane level, in this conditional world, how we interact with these conditions, it's very difficult for us to realize the true meaning of this life and the world. As we have explained earlier, there are two realities, right? We call it the truths, the conventional truth and the ultimate truth, right? What people are mostly engaged in this world is the conventional truth, these conceptual worlds, the meaning given to this superficial world as our thoughts, phrases, views, labels, all these things, right? It's a created world. We have given the superficial meaning to the world. So that is the conventional truth, right? So this is the normal reality we are dealing with every day, in our everyday life. But the ultimate truth is not simple to understand. The ultimate truth, to understand the ultimate truth, one needs to go beyond this superficial level of this experience. Just like the science, right? If someone's to understand the true meaning of an object in a scientific way, it is not realized just from the superficial level, right? They have to analyze it. They have to break it down, maybe to the level of that they cannot separate anymore. The ultimate level, right? Maybe the atomic level, the energy level. That is where the reality, according to the science, is revealed and understood. So the spiritual science is also the same. one has to go beyond this superficial reality, superficial conditions to be able to understand the ultimate truth. So if you think about the Four Noble Truths, right, and the law of impermanence, the reality of non-self, the dependent origination, the enlightenment factors, all these things are not found in the superficial world. They are deep inside. But the important thing is that the ultimate and the superficial truths are existing both together. Right? They are not separate. They are always go hand in hand. They are always connected. But it is our duty to penetrate through the superficial conventional truth to be able to see the ultimate reality. Right? It's very simple. Otherwise, this ultimate truth is not found anywhere else. It's not in the heaven or in the moon or in a galaxy. Nowhere like that. Right? It's right here, right within ourselves. The ultimate truth is always there within the conventional truth. The only thing we have to apply is the right thinking, right mindfulness, right concentration. These qualities actually, for us to realize that ultimate truth. So that is what it means. These qualities are needed to understand the Dhamma, to realize the ultimate truth. So this is what Venerable Anuruddha was contemplating on. The Dhamma cannot be realized with a normal worldly mind. That's why this practice is all about. All this Dhamma practice is to reach that goal, to fulfill that purpose. All practices in the Buddha's teachings are aiming to that goal. So it's our duty, therefore, to see how much we practice this necessary Dhamma. Or as a result of what we are practicing, how much we have understood this ultimate truth. Or practically, how much have I reduced? How much suffering have I reduced in my experience as a result of this understanding, as a result of my practice? So this would be a very practical reflection for us, in relation to these qualities in our own practice. So therefore, this Anuruddha Sutta is very important. Some practical, deep Dhamma is there. So, any thoughts, any question, any comments?
That was good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, no questions? Alright, so if you don't have any question or anything to share, that will be the end of the discussion. Thank you very much. All the blessings to you.